In an effort to improve outreach to military veterans in the United States and Canada who may be struggling with an alcohol problem, we have collected interviews from AA members who are veterans of the U.S. or Canadian Armed Forces to share the experience and strength and hope they have found in Alcoholics Anonymous.
My name is Sandy. I am an alcoholic. My sobriety date this time around is May 10th, 2010. I'm just coming up on 15 years. It was 1967, and it was Canada's 100th birthday. And there was all kinds of recruitment drives for the armed forces, particularly for women. Women were newly recruited from the forces. When I joined up, I joined the 1st of April, 1967. I left for basic training in Cornwallis, Nova Scotia on April the 7th, 1967. I wasn't drinking a great deal at this time for sure. I was young. In hindsight, the signs were there. I had my first blackout drunk when I was in Borden, Ontario on trades training. I continued to drink, but it was always protected because there wasn't a lot of women around me by the men that I worked with, because I usually was the only woman in the job. I was moving from base to base, and each time I went to a new base, I was intending to have a new home and a new start. It was like one of those moves we make as a drunk that we start somewhere else and everything will be wonderful. However, I always managed to find the other drinkers. We seemed to gravitate to each other, and it wasn't very long before I was in exactly the same position I had been from the base that I had just left. I got married to a man in 1971. He was not in the military, but I had met him at a military dance on a Navy base in Winnipeg, a Navy unit. And he was also, just like me, a drinker. That's how how I met him and how we got together. And eventually we did get married, and he was the same with me. He did follow me from base to base. And each time we started new life at a new base, it was the same thing over and over again. We were eventually drinking our lives away. I guess the downfall of my marriage is when I was sent on a 6-month tour, peacekeeping tour in Cyprus. And I didn't want to go because I knew that my marriage was not stable enough to survive that. And I was not what you would call the ideal wife. I was very promiscuous, and I didn't want to go. But as you military people know, you go where you're told to go. Otherwise, you're told that thanks for your service. And I wasn't ready for that yet. When I got back, we did separate, my husband and I. And I got posted to Thunder Bay, Ontario at a armories there. I was in a medical unit, and I was basically by myself. So most of the time, my work was just checking medical records and amending them and making sure everything medically was all right with the people that I worked with. I did manage to start drinking an awful lot. I found myself completely in an alien lifestyle. I had no marriage, no friends. I was not prepared for these changes in my life. And, my only friend really was the bottle. And I took to it very well. I was drinking daily. Sometimes I would start early before I went to work. Sometimes I brought a bottle to work with me. Nobody was around to check me or to worry about the fact that I was drinking. I would go to the mess at lunch hour and drink there. My drinking escalated very, very quickly. I guess the bottom at that time, my bottom at that time, was one day there was a general was coming in to inspect the medical unit. Well, I had decided that I would not show up for work, and I had the only keys to the medical unit, and people were not happy with me when I did come in, and they had tried to get a hold of me, and of course I was too drunk, either too drunk or too hungover to worry about it. And I did get charged with being AWOL, and I also was also recommended, highly recommended, that I go to rehab. So they sent me back to Winnipeg because there was nothing in Thunder Bay for me, to a hospital where I was given, I don't know, those pills, I don't know what they were called, that if you drink you throw up.
Oh, yes, I remember that, Sandy. That was called antibutes.
Oh yes, now I
Yes,
remember. Yeah.
now you remember, yes.
And I was there for a couple of weeks, and then I was sent to Kingston, Ontario for rehab. Again, I was treated so differently from what the men were that I had a real hard time with the 28-day program, but I was determined. I was unhappy with my drinking, very, very unhappy with it. And what had happened to me, I was devastated that I got myself into this horrible problem. So I did the 28 days, and I was very happy with not drinking. I didn't want to drink anymore. So the rehab really did work for me. But when I went back to Thunder Bay, I found myself in exactly the same position I had been. So they sent me to psychiatrists, to psychologists, to counselors, and they sent me to one AA meeting. While I was retiring, I had to come back to Winnipeg for a medical, because as we all know, you have to have a medical before you get out of release. And it was discovered that I had breast cancer. So I immediately, everything alcohol-wise was put on the back burner. I had a mastectomy, then I had chemotherapy, and I was meeting with my oncologist. So this was kind of set me back with my AA pattern I had thought I might go under. I still did not drink. I didn't drink for, I'm going to say 15, maybe 16 years, but without the help of Alcoholics Anonymous. 2 years after my mastectomy, which was in 1990, I had another mastectomy. Cancer was discovered in my other breast, and I had to have another mastectomy. But I was doing well. But of course, after about 16 years, without Alcoholics Anonymous, my brain told me I wasn't an alcoholic. I forgot I was an alcoholic. And I started to drink again. And it started off slowly. I could handle it, the one drink here and there. But of course, it wasn't long before it was, one day of drinking, and then the weekend. And then it was totally out of hand. I got picked up for a DUI, and my license was taken away. once again, I found myself devastated by the horrible actions that drinking caused me. And this time I had to go to the Addictions Foundation of Manitoba, which is part of what the judge ordered for me. And I went to just daily classes during the day, once or twice a week. And I was recommended by one of the counselors that I find a women's group, and I started attending. This is also what the judge had ordered, that I go to AA for a year. And luckily, I found a very strong women's group in Winnipeg, and I got a very strong sponsor. And she was my godsend. She just recently passed away, unfortunately. And she pushed me into service. She pushed me to stay sober. And after the year that the judge had ordered me to go, I got my license back. And that's when I decided that Alcoholics Anonymous was the path I wanted to take. I am so far still sober and hope that I shall remain that way. Today, I do still go to the meetings, although I don't have a new sponsor yet, but I'm working on that. And I do service work. I have sponsored women. I'm grateful that I'm sober today. My life is so much better and so much happier. And I don't no longer have that shame. And one of the questions you had asked was, what advice would I give to other members, veterans and military members? And I think the one thing that for a woman that I would say is, because during my time in the military, which was 23 years in total, I was protected. I was protected by the men. All of the people around me didn't want to get me in trouble, so they would cover up my hangovers, my drinking. And my advice would be, if you see somebody who needs help, that you make sure they get that help, because that help is available. And my service career was wonderful and I loved it, but I missed so much by being drunk or hungover and not giving it my all. I could have done so much more. Anyhow, that's my story, Jerry.
Sandy, thank you.
The views and opinions expressed during this podcast are those of the individuals. No one person speaks for AA as a whole. For more information about AA, please visit our website at aa.org. To find a meeting near you or a meeting online, download the Meeting Guide app on your mobile device.